Well, welcome once again to Captain Jock's Beginner's Guide to Simple Cooking. Today we're going to be doing a beef vindaloo curry. Now this is going to look pretty complicated with all these ingredients, but don't get disheartened, it's just a one-pot wonder. So we're going to run through them nice and slowly now, so you can either write them down or take a note and see if you've got them. So first of all, we're going to have just a pinch of sugar, maybe half a teaspoonful. We've got one red chili, a nice big white onion. We've got ginger, and we're going to be using around about 2 centimeters of ginger, 2 or 3 centimeters of ginger. We've got one bulb of garlic, we'll be using half of that. 2 beef stock cubes, or any kind of beef stock that you've got. Now we're going to run through the spices here. There's quite a lot of them. Vindaloo's a very spicy curry. So lots of different flavours in here. So we've got ground cloves. We will use just a tiny bit of that, 1/4 teaspoonful. Very strong flavour. We've got coriander, 1 teaspoonful. Cinnamon, again a very strong flavour, so maybe even 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoonful. There's cumin, lovely flavour in most curries. So we're going to use 1.5 teaspoonfuls of cumin. Now those lot there could be replaced by a simple mild curry powder, if you've got that. So mild curry powder, we would use probably 2 to 3 teaspoonfuls of that. That's instead of these 4. Cloves, coriander, cinnamon and cumin. Then we go on and we will add garam masala. This is a multi, it's got lots and lots of different flavours in it. We use 2 teaspoonfuls of that. Turmeric, we're going to use 1 teaspoonful of turmeric, and then ground or cracked brown black pepper. I'm going to use a level teaspoonful, not too much. This is quite a strong pepper and it's quite a rough one, so we're going to use maybe a level teaspoonful of cracked pepper. 1 little tub of tomato paste. 1 can of diced tomatoes. Here we're using a nice bit of blade beef. This is, I think, a shoulder steak or something, rump steak. Around about 300 grams, 300 to 350. Some potatoes, vindaloo, well known for having potatoes through it, aloo. Some corn flour, that will be coating the beef. Now I'm going to throw some mushrooms in. These mushrooms, believe it or not, are growing in my garden. We've got rather a big paddock out the front here. These mushrooms started appearing a week or 2 ago, which is fantastic. This was one morning's picking. They're delicious to eat raw, but I'm going to add them into the curry today. And we've got 2 carrots, 2 largish carrots. And we've got the table salt that I'm using. Any salt is okay. It doesn't have to be the pink stuff. Any table salt is fine. And we've got some rice bran oil. Any oil will do, preferably not olive oil, but any cooking oil will be fine. And of course, rice. We'll be cooking rice to serve it with. No Indian meal is complete without some papadums. Unfortunately, I can't do the naan bread. I think the naan bread you buy in the supermarkets is never the same. It's got to be done in a tandoori oven. So we do papadums instead. This is just done in the microwave. We'll show you all that later. So we'll run through that again quickly. We've got the papadums. We got the rice, we got the oil, we got the salt, carrots, mushrooms. You don't have to put mushrooms in if you don't want to. Corn flour, potatoes, nice bit of beef, diced tomatoes, 1 tub of tomato paste, cracked black pepper, turmeric, garam masala, either the mild curry powder or these 4, which is cumin, cinnamon, coriander and ground cloves. We've got 2 oxo cubes, a bulb of garlic, a little bit of root ginger, 1 large white onion, 1 red chili. You can put 2 in if you want, 3 if you're suicidal, but just 1 will be quite hot enough, trust me. And then a little dash of sugar. This will just be 1/2 teaspoonful of sugar to cook the onion with. Okay, we'll see you shortly and we'll show you how to put it all together. Hello, well, good afternoon. welcome back to my beautiful kitchen. You've just seen the ingredients. Tonight we're going to make a fantastic beef vindaloo curry. You've got the ingredients. A couple of things you're going to need to do this. One, a bowl here. We're going to deal with the meat first, so you need a bowl to put it in. We're going to use this casserole. So this is I'm going to cook on top of the hob here, and then we're going to transfer that into the oven. You're going to need a pot for the rice. We'll explain all about the rice later. And then you will need something to mix the spices in. I use a little mortar and pestle, and you'll need a jug to make the stock. So pretty straightforward stuff. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the oven on, because we need the oven hot when we're going to put the casserole into the oven. This is going to be a low heat this time, so we want it down about 160 centigrade. That's around about 320, 330 Fahrenheit, something like that. So we're going to turn that on. We'll go to oven and we'll put it down to 160 and we'll press start. So there we go. So that'll be warming up as we're preparing the rest of the dish. So we're going to do the beef first. So we've got a lovely big bit of beef there. I've got my little kitchen tidy underneath today, so we're not going to make too much mess. You are going to need a really sharp knife for this. So if you don't know how to sharpen a knife, you're going to have to learn how to do it. So this, I use a steel. I'm not suggesting you should do this, because if you do, you may well slice your thumb. I have several little scars on the outside of my thumb showing me where I've nicked it with this knife. So this puts a really nice sharp edge on your knife. Very important. Of course, with washed hands. Very important before starting any cooking, of course, but more particularly at this time with all the virus stuff hanging on around the country. So there's a nice piece of meat. Now we want to take all that fat off. We don't want to use this fat. We're going to get rid of these little bits and pieces here. Little bits of marbling in here. That's quite okay. So you can see you've got little bits of marbling. That's okay. But I'm going to get rid of this larger piece of fat here. We don't want that in it. So simply, we're just going to take the knife down there. We're just going to slice it off like that. Very easy. We'll take out that little bit there and there. So if you've got a nice sharp knife, that's very easy to do. If your knife is blunt, it's going to be really difficult. You're going to make a mess and you might end up cutting yourself as well. So we can take this bit out, just straight down there. And there's one piece ready. Now you see this has got a little bit of fat along there, so we're going to take that little bit out as well. Just right along there. Don't want to use that bit. We've got this larger piece of fat here, so I'm just going to take that out there, follow it along that little seam, and just cut through there. This piece, I'm happy with that bit, that's okay. We want to get rid of this. There we go. I'm quite happy with that. This is quite a large bit in here. We don't want that to go into the dish, so we're just going to cut around that. We'll take that bit off and we're going to cut down there. Again, sharp knife, doing the job very nicely. You'll see this kind of sinewy bit here, we're going to cut that off. We don't want that. And likewise with this kind of larger bit through here, a little bit of fat, we're going to take that off as well. Just cut down either side. There we go. We've taken the fat out. Minimal meat on it there. And we put that away. So those two pieces of meat there. And this is a bit messy at the end there. See, there's lots of bits of fat and stuff there. We're going to get rid of that too. So there you go. That's your meat ready to be diced up. So we want squares around about this size. So let's do 1, 2. So what's that? About 2 centimeters square, something like that. Doesn't have to be exact. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. It really doesn't matter. So we're going to chop that one through there. Take that one, take that one. Yeah, we'll take that one down the middle, I think. And we just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. Now if your knife is not cutting as easily as that, then you need to sharpen it. I just found a little bit more fat there, I'm going to take that out. So your knife should be just slicing through that meat very, very easily. We're going to take that down the middle. There we go. And that's the meat cut. We're going to put it into this bowl. Now this meat is I think it's a rump steak, so this bit of the cow. So it's quite a tough meat. It's not something you would use for a steak unless you're going to bash it and cook it on a barbecue or something. You would have to soften it somehow. But we're not going to do that. We're going to cook it slowly at a slow heat over quite a long time. It's going to go in the oven for about 2 to 2.5 hours. And that meat will just simply get softer and softer and softer. And in the curry, it will just melt in your mouth. It will be really fantastic. So before we can cook with it, we've got to coat it in corn flour. Now this does a little bit, a couple of jobs. This will gradually thicken the curry as it's being made, but also we're going to fry off this meat in the casserole. So frying off the meat there, this will just crisp up the edges of the meat a little bit, but it will keep the flavour in there. So when you do bite into those lovely little bits of beef in the curry, it's going to taste really fantastic. So there we go. So you just toss it around in the bowl there like that, getting all the meat totally coated in a nice layer of the corn flour. There we go. So put that over there. So that's ready to do something with. I'll put that over here. Next, we're going to do the onion. Okay, I'm just going to rinse my knife here because we've been dealing with raw meat. Now, you know that I mentioned in one of the previous videos the chicken breast that we cooked the other day. The chicken's quite dangerous because it does potentially leave some little pathogens on the chopping block. Red meat's not so bad, but that doesn't mean to say you don't give the board a little rinse, a little wash before doing anything fresh on it. Everything's going to be cooked anyway, so it's not really a problem. But we do want to give this just a little wipe down. Make sure there's no traces there. A little bit there. So wash the knife, wash the chopping board, and then we're ready for doing the onions, garlic, ginger, and chilli. So this is a very big white onion. If you haven't got one quite this size, you can always use 2, surprisingly enough. Now this dish that we're cooking tonight, this is going to feed 4 people quite comfortably. Alright, so quite comfortably feeding 4 people. That's why we're using such a big onion here. Okay. And again, we're going to slice this as we've done before in the previous videos. If you haven't seen them, please have a look. If you want to get notification of when more of my videos are coming online, just subscribe to my channel and then you'll be able to get in it. And you'll get a wee notification when it's coming. So we're chopping the onion nice and small. There we go. Very nice. Same again with this one. You see, keeping the knife up at an angle like this one keeps the onion together. Now, I know some of you, probably most of you, have experienced onion eye. You know when you're chopping onions, gets in your nose, gets in your eyes, and you start crying? Well, I've got a little secret for you. If that happens to you, all you've got to do is go to your sink, cold water, let the cold water run, put your hands and the knife in the cold water, and it will stop almost instantly. It's quite remarkable. I don't know how it works. Don't ask me. I'm not a professor. But if you do get that onion eye, that'll stop it happening. Okay, ginger. We're going to put ginger in this dish. This is root ginger. If you've never used it before, this is what it looks like. Fantastic flavouring for all sorts of dishes. We need to take off the brown outer cover. You see the outer cover here? And you can do that a couple of ways. I'm just going to slice down it very carefully. I'm going to take the edges off. There we go. So we want it just to be the root itself, not the bark on the outside. You can use a teaspoon to do that, but I just use my knife. So there we go. So that's your little bit of ginger. So all gone. So again, you just take that down in the tiny there. We're not going to use any more than that. So this one, you're going to slice it. Again, the sharp knife is essential. And then we're going to chop this so that it's similar It's similar size to how we chopped the garlic the other day. I'll show you that again in a minute. So we're just going to go over it several times, rubbing it together. And that's chopping it up nice and small. Now I can put that in with the onion, because that's all going to go in the pot at the same time. Garlic. Yeah, I'm just going to bring up my little bin here. I'm going to take the outer coating off the garlic bulb there. So this is a whole bulb. We're not going to use the whole bulb for this. We're going to use about that much. Let me see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do another one. Let's do 6 cloves. So that one we can put over there. 6 cloves, slice the bottom off. Oh, there's another one there. And you can see my little secret to you. You don't take them completely fresh because it's quite difficult to peel them when they're very, very fresh. These ones, the flavour will be just the same, and you see how easy it is for the covers to come off. Covers, the peel, whatever you want to call it. You just peel the garlic very, very simply. There we go. We just chop them, chop the tails off, chop the bottom off. Then that one. I think that's us done. Only one more here. You can see how easy that was to peel them. You want to get rid of all that peel there. Get rid of that. So there we've got the garlic. And with the garlic we do exactly the same as we did with the ginger. Watching your fingers, remember I showed you how to do the chopping there. Tuck these fingers away so you're not going to chop your hands off. It's not very convenient having blood all over the chopping board. So tucking your fingers out of the way, you're just slicing this garlic nice and thin. Now if you don't like a lot of garlic, no problem, just use a little bit less. I like quite a lot of garlic, so this is just to my taste. You can go down to as little as a couple of little cloves. We use 6 or 7 there, so if you want to use a little bit less, not a problem. It's still going to be an exceptionally tasty dish because of all the spices that we put in it. Maybe one more time over with that. Fantastic, and we can put that with the onions and the ginger because they all go in at the same time. The chilli is going to go in a little bit later because I want to cook this nice and slowly for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then we can add all the spices and we can add the chilli and everything like that. So we're going to chop the chilli just now anyway. So this is a 1 chilli. You can do 2 if you like it really hot. 3 if you're completely mad. There you are. So these ones are quite hot. And we're going to use the whole chilli, seeds and all. That's what gives us the excessive heat. But I know from experience that these ones are pretty hot. So just don't overdo it. And over the weeks and months as you do this dish over and over, you can experiment with more or less. You can use half a chilli if you really don't like it hot at all. Just use half a chilli, that's quite okay. There we go. So we're ready to go with that. So I'm going to put all this into a little dish. Might have to use 2 dishes because that was such a huge onion. There we go. So just move that out of the way a little bit. So this is our pot. So I've got a beautiful cast iron pot here, and these, I know they just add a little bit of fabulous flavour to the food. Cooking in cast irons always, for some reason, just tastes awful amazing. So I want to put some oil in there. So as I've said before, we use this rice bran oil, and we're going to put in quite a lot. So we want to cover the bottom of the pan, maybe with a couple of millimetres, 2 to 3 millimetres across the bottom of the pan. There's our onions, and we're going to put the heat on. So this is quite a thick metal, so it's going to take a little bit of time to heat up. So I'm just going to leave it on quite a high heat to begin with, but then when I put the onions and the garlic and the ginger in, I'm going to reduce the heat a little bit, just so they're bubbling quite slowly. Whilst we're waiting for that just to come up to heat, we can maybe deal with our carrots. Now carrots, up to you to put them in. You can put carrots, you can put parsnips, you can put just about any vegetable you want in there. Just watch out if you're putting a soft vegetable like a courgette or something, that's going to cook really, really quickly. So courgette you would add later in the event. Cauliflower, broccoli the same way. You don't want to put them in too early. The carrots are good, they can go in right at the start with everything else. We're just giving these a quick rub off with our little metal scrubber again. There we go. Now we're going to cut these again down the middle, straight down the middle, and we're going to cut them into quite big pieces. You don't want small pieces because it's cooking for so long. If it's a very small piece, they'll kind of almost disintegrate. So quite chunky bits like that. Okay? And because they're cooking over a long period of time, they will be very soft. There you go. So nice large pieces like that. Unfortunately, we ran out of our own carrots. As you know, we had those lovely little carrots out of our garden the other day, but these ones shop bought, but still fabulous taste as well. So the heat's coming on with that one. Now this is not a normal ingredient for a curry, certainly not for a vindaloo, but look, these things started sprouting up in our garden just recently. They're called field mushrooms, so they're very similar to the button mushrooms you buy in the shops. They're delicious, really delicious. We made a dish with them the other day and they're really lovely. So I'm going to put quite a lot of these in. But again, these are mushrooms, these will cook quite quickly. So I'm not going to put them in at the beginning. So what I'll do is I'll just chop them up a little bit and then they'll be ready to add sometime down the line. Maybe about half an hour before serving or something like that. We can add them in. Just roughly chop them like that. That's enough. And that'll give us some really nice extra woody flavour through the curry. So, I think this is now nice and hot, so I'm going to turn it down just a touch and add the onions. Whoa, hear that? That's what you should hear. So the oil is hot enough. And we don't want it to go too hot now, so that's why I've turned the heat down. I want these just to sizzle away nice and slowly. And just gradually they'll go kind of translucent, they'll go kind of almost see-through. So at this stage we've got to add our salt. This is the salt that we're using. So you want to put in about a teaspoonful of salt, something like that. And we want to add our pepper. Now this is a rough ground pepper. What's it called? Cracked black pepper. So we don't want to add too much of this because being a cracked black pepper, it's quite strong. So that would be plenty. So just 1 teaspoonful like that. Plenty pepper. And our little bit of sugar. So the sugar just helps to soften the onion a little bit. Now we use brown sugar. The only reason for that is we use brown sugar in the coffee in the mornings. We don't have any white sugar. You can use white sugar, brown sugar, icing, whatever you like. But we want to put in just a little bit of sugar. It's a big onion, so I'm going to use about half a teaspoonful, something like that. Now that just helps caramelise the onion a little bit, brings the flavour out beautifully. Keep stirring this as it's going along. Now you want to deal to this for about 10 minutes, roughly. Maybe not quite 10 minutes, but around about 10 minutes. So just while we've got that bubbling away, potatoes. Traditionally in a really good Indian vindaloo, you will get some potatoes. So we're just going to get them ready as well. We'll use these lovely little potatoes that we've been using for a couple of days now. All we do is we're just going to quarter them. That's all they need. So we want quite big pieces there. We're going to go in the oven with everything else. Not cooked at all before going in. So we're just quartering like that. Any way you want, any quarters, whatever you want. There we go. So as simple as that. Lovely colour those potatoes, aren't they? So they're ready to go in the dish when it's all ready to go. So just keeping an eye on the clock there. That's only a couple of minutes it's been going. A little bit too hot still, so I'll just turn it down just a touch more. That's nice. Okay, now the most important ingredient in any curry, of course, is the spices. Now you can buy a paste, you can buy a jar. Please don't go for those ready mixed jar things because they're usually very, very sweet. If you are going to use a shop made some, go for one of the pastes. Comes in little packets. You can get vindaloo paste or you get madras paste, and it's not a bad spice mix. But hey, where's the fun in that? I prefer doing it myself. So we're going to come back onto the board here. So I like to mix my spices in my little mortar and pestle. If there's any seeds involved, we can smash it up with that. There's no seeds involved in this one. So, as I said, you can use a mild curry powder if you wish. A couple of teaspoonfuls of that will replace quite a few of these spices. So first of all, we've got ground cloves. Now, cloves is an extremely strong flavour, so you want to use very, very little of this. For a dish this size, just a tiny little bit like that. Okay, that's ample. It's a strong flavour, it's a subtle flavour unless you use too much. You don't want to do that. Coriander, beautiful. Beautiful spice, belongs in just about every curry. So we're going to put 2 corianders in like that. Okay. Cinnamon, again cinnamon, you'd think in a curry, unusual. Again, you just want to use a tiny little bit, 1/4 teaspoon, something like that. There we go. Oh, smelling nice already. And cumin. Cumin, again, many curries have cumin in it. It's a staple, one of the spices to put in. I'm going to put 2 of these in as well. 2 heaped of cumin. And garam masala, again, present in most curries. We're going to put 2 of these in as well. 1, 2. Don't be frightened to put big amounts of this in. This is quite a big dish we're cooking. Just let me check the onions. So don't be frightened to put plenty spices in. Because, like I said, it's a big dish, and if it's under flavoured, then it's just not going to be brilliant. Just turmeric. So turmeric, 1 teaspoonful like that. And we're done with the spices. Now, I like to mix these up with a little bit of oil so that they don't go in dry. If they go in dry, they tend not to mix too well. So I'd rather you put a little bit of oil in here, then we mix them up, and we're basically making our own paste. Maybe put a little bit more in. So that's a bit of, I guess, a tablespoonful of oil in with all those spices there. And there you go. What we made is this lovely curry paste. Beautiful. Okay, coming back to our onions, which have now been in for about 7 or 8 minutes. You can see they're going nice and shiny. We want them to cook just a little bit longer. We want them to go like translucent, clear, and we want all that flavour to come out into the oil. Whilst we're talking about oil, Indians out there, if there's any of you, or Indian cooks, chefs, would be horrified at me using cooking oil because they would always use ghee. It's not always available in many shops. You'd probably have to find an Indian grocer somewhere, Indian spice shop, which are fantastic to visit, by the way, and they would use ghee instead of this just cooking oil. It does make a difference, a little bit of difference to the flavour, but in my opinion, to those of us that are not experts, it's fine without the ghee, okay? Don't worry. It's about time to put the chilli in. So I don't want the chilli to cook quite as quickly. So there's all our chopped chilli. And at this stage we can also put in our spice mix that we've just made. Because we want to heat up the spice mix so that the flavour starts coming out of it. This is when your house will start smelling like an Indian restaurant. But that's not a bad thing, is it? Beautiful. So that's the spices. Just get the rest off that spoon. Don't want to waste any. There we go. And we mix all that in. So we want that paste to start cooking. And the flavour, once it starts cooking, the oil gets into it, it's just going to, flavour comes bursting out of it, the smell comes bursting out of it. It's really beautiful. Just turn the heat up just a touch there. And you can see that's changed the consistency of the onions completely. And the smell already, it's just wafting out of it. It's beautiful. So that's the base of our curry. So all we've got to do is add the rest of the few ingredients. But the onions are there, the chili is there, the garlic is there, the ginger is there, and the spice mix is there. So this has all the flavour. That's where most of the flavour comes from. It's all in there and it's all bubbling away, and the flavour will grow and grow and grow. Beautiful, beautiful. Curry flavours tend to grow over a period of time as well. Those of us that are from Britain will probably know that a curry often tastes better the morning after you bring it home from a takeaway late at night. This is because, in my opinion, the flavour grows and grows and grows. With this one, it's going to be in the oven for about 2.5 hours, so the flavour will grow fantastically in there. Okay, we'll leave that just bubbling away a little bit. So, what we've got to put in tomato paste. Tomatoes, and we have to put in the stock, so this has to bring the stock up, and we have to put the meat in, of course. So I think our next move would be to put the meat in, okay, whilst it's frying, and we're just going to fry off the meat as well, and so the meat will gradually go a little brown as the heat of the pan sears it. It's called sears it. Look at that, searing the meat. You've heard that phrase before. All that is just turning the meat brown. It kind of seals the juices into the meat. There we go. So we'll just leave that searing. Put the kettle on, or the jug. Sorry, we're in New Zealand. We'll put the jug on. And we've got 2 stock cubes here, and we're just sprinkling, breaking up the stock cubes into our little measuring jug there, as opposed to the hot water jug behind me. There we go, so we're just breaking these up, as you do. Add a little flavour, there we go. And the kettle's as good as boiling. Pop that in there. And we're going to go up to about 500 ml, something like that. That's about here, half full. About 500 ml. Here we go. Just give this a little stir, make sure we're not drying out. Remember I told you about getting a good pair of oven gloves? Remember to wear them when you're holding onto a cast iron pot on the hob, because it gets kind of hot. So we're just turning the meat over, turning the meat over, turning the meat over, so that it's browned on all sides. Smells fantastic already. Alright, so we've got the stock cubes here, mix that up. Okay, next to go in, this is chopped tomatoes, straight in on top there. Give it a bit of a stir in, add a little bit of liquid. Looking very nice. Now a little secret here, there's still a lot of tomatoes left in that, there's still a bit of flavour left in that jug, in that tin. So just pour a little bit of your stock in there, give it a twirl around, there you go. Because this stock is going in. I'm not going to put it all in, not just yet. That's about 2/3. I just want to see how the level looks once we've got everything else in. Whoops, just splashed the wall. And the carrots. And like I said, I'm not going to add the mushrooms until a little bit later. Does anyone else wonder why they put this little tab on tomato paste? Because it never works, does it? You always got to get a knife in there and cut it open. There we go. So we're not going to put this whole tub in. I'm going to put in about half of that little tub. Give it a wee stir, get it off that spoon. And go in, give it all a big stir up. That looks great. Got a beautiful colour there. We've got the chilli in it. We've got the garlic and the ginger. All the vegetables in there. So I think that is ready. Oh yeah, that's very good. So I'm going to bring that to the boil, which won't take very long because that was boiling water that went in there. There we go. It's just starting to boil around the edges there. There we go. So it's just beginning to bubble around the edges, like I said. So I think that's... Oh, it tastes really good already. Yeah, you can see that's boiling there now. So I think we're ready to shift that into the oven. Okay, switch the heat off. Put the lid on. We need a second one of these, of course. I'll just take these bits out of the oven to keep them out of the way. And here we go. Our beautiful casserole away into the oven. And that's at a temperature of 160 for about... We're going to do this one maybe 2.5 hours, so we're going to come back at 7:30. But in the meantime, I'll show you how to do the rice, and of course we'll come in and add we'll add the mushrooms around about the same time as we start the rice. So I'll be back shortly. You go and have a relax, have a cup of tea, and we'll do the rest later. Well, good morning. Yes, I did say good morning. Thanks to a little technical hitch, my beautiful camera here managed to wipe the last bit of the video. So we're just going to go over the last couple of stages. So you'll remember when we left, for you a minute or two ago, for me yesterday, when we just put the casserole into the oven, the curry into the oven. So we're just going to do now, we're going to prepare the rice. Now this is done about 1 hour before the curry is ready to serve. Okay, so you're about 1.5 hours into cooking the curry, but 1 hour to go. So we're going to do the rice first. So I'm just going to do a small amount because we made the big amount yesterday. So taking a little pan here, you would use a bigger one. And to this we're going to add just a little bit of oil, a little bit of cooking oil, about 1 tablespoonful, just very, very little like that. That's enough. We're going to put the heat on underneath. And we want quite a hot temperature. We want this to get quite hot. And then to add that, now you're going to add about 1.5 to 2 cups of rice. That's going to amply serve 4 people, possibly even a little bit more. I'm just going to do a little bit today, maybe half a cup, something like that. So just a little bit of rice like that. And then we're going to keep agitating this, keep stirring it up. We want all that rice to be coated with the oil. Now with this way of doing rice, I've shown you before on the first video that we did, but this way of doing rice just ensures that your rice will come out nice and fluffy and it won't stick. Sometimes you make rice and it's all clumps and it goes a bit mushy and stuff. This will prevent that from happening. It takes a little bit longer, but then when you're doing a curry like this, you've got 2.5 hours to play with. So as I said, about 1 hour before the curry is ready to serve, you do this one. So heating it up, just keep moving it. And whilst you're doing that, the jug, kettle, whichever you want to call it, is boiled. And once this is up to the right temperature, we're going to add the hot water to this. Okay, and when you add the hot water, you're going to come to about 2 centimetres above the level of the rice. Round about 2 centimetres, 2 to 3, something like that. When the water's in there, it will be bubbling, okay? It will bubble straight away because we're going to put boiling water in, and this is going to be very hot. So it will be boiling more or less instantly when you put the water in. Just be careful because there'll be a big puff of steam coming up. You'll see that just in a minute. And we don't want you to get burnt. So just be careful when you're doing that. This is nice and hot. I can feel it getting hot. Now the rice at the bottom here when it's right to the right temperature, the grains of rice will start to go a little bit whiter, if that seems logical. That means they're getting hot. And we don't want them to go brown. Brown obviously is burning. And you'll hear a subtle difference in the noise coming from your stirring. It goes kind of a dry sound, dry. Now I think that's hot enough, to be honest. So you can just, you might be able to pick that up, but you'll see some of the grains down the bottom there. See that one over those there? They're going very white. That means it's ready for the water to be added. So we boiled the jug already. Here we go. Now watch out, this is going to be a big puff of steam, and keep your hands clear. There we go. Now that is the rice, and you'll see it's boiling already. Hot rice, hot water, bubbling away. So we can leave that for the moment, just to bubble away. Keep an eye on it, just out the corner of your eye. And now we're going to go on to preparing poppadoms. You can buy these in the store, in Indian stores, in the general supermarkets. Poppadoms, they're very, very easy to cook, and they go fantastically well with a curry. So the first thing we want to do is we want to coat these in oil, just a tiny, tiny bit of the same rice bran oil, and we're going to brush these on, just very lightly brush them like that. Turn it over, do the other side. I'm just going to do a couple, because as you now already know, we had our dinner last night, so I'm only going to do a couple of these. So we put that on there. The next one can just go straight on that because it will pick the oil up from the top of this one, so we don't want too much. There we go. Just a very light brush of oil. If you haven't got a pastry brush, just use your fingers or a bit of kitchen roll, improvise. There we go. So that now is ready for the microwave. They cook incredibly quickly in the microwave. I'm going to put them down there. Now in the microwave, just put in maybe a double sheet of kitchen roll into the bottom of the microwave. That just stops stops your plate getting greasy, and also gives a little bit of airflow around it, because you want this to go nice and crisp. So putting it right in the middle, close the door. My microwave is about 800 kilowatts, so it's quite a strong microwave, and we're going to cook that for 30 seconds. My button, just press it once and it's 30 seconds to cook. But whilst that's doing, just keep an eye on the rice, give it a little stir, make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. That's looking good. 16 seconds to go. Also during this time while we're preparing the rice and the poppadoms, you will remember we had to add the mushrooms. So I got another crop of mushrooms out the garden this morning, so that's what you would add into the curry at about this stage, 1 hour, 45 minutes, something like that. 45 minutes before serving the curry is when you add the mushrooms. We did that already, so this is going to be for lunch. There we go, that's our first poppadom ready. Look at that, fantastic. And we'll do the second one. 30 seconds again. Now these will come out, they'll be a little bit flimsy when they come out of the microwave, but virtually immediately they'll go nice and crispy, crunchy. So this is nice and ready. It's beautiful. In fact, you'll see it's just cracking up like that. And the cooler it gets, the crispier it becomes. Delicious. Delicious with a little bit of curry. Dipping this into the curry and together. Fantastic. 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And there's our second one, already. Just be careful, quite hot when it comes out. But that will go nice and crispy over the next little while, and it will be ready to serve with the curry when it's ready in about what will be about 45 minutes from now. I said keeping an eye on the rice, just giving a little stir. And we want that water to boil down as quickly as possible. The rice is going to suck up some of the water, and then we're going to put the lid on it to finish off the cooking. So you leave this going like that, until the water's almost all gone. So we want it so that there's still a little bit of bubble coming through, but make sure you don't let it burn. Then what you do is you get your lid for the pot and a tea towel. Wrap the lid in the tea towel like this. And when this is ready, we pop the top on, give it a hit, turn the heat off. That's all you have to do. Leave it for the next 45 to 50 minutes and that will come out brilliantly. I've always wanted to say this, but here's one I prepared earlier. This is yesterday's dish, okay? And this is the remnants of the rice we had yesterday, because I made rice for 4, you'll remember. And you'll just see how beautiful, light and fluffy that is. That's been in the fridge overnight, so all you've got to do with that, put it in a dish, heat it up in the microwave, and you're ready to go. You see how light and fluffy that rice comes out. Fantastic. There we go. That's all you need to know about the rice. We've done the rice, we've done the poppadoms, and now we're ready for serving. So we're going to imaginary jump forward 45 minutes, because of course you know we did this yesterday. So we're going to jump forward 45 minutes and show you how to plate it up. Pretty straightforward. Nice big plate, like so. And we get the rice. I'm going to use a bigger spoon. There we go. Get the rice. We're going to put the rice in the middle of the plate like this. Nice big serving, because we're all grown-ups. We know how much we like. Make a little valley in the middle, if you want to call it that. And we get the curry from the oven. Just take care. Remember, it is very hot. We're going to bring it over here. I've warmed this up a little bit this morning. And there's what your curry's going to look like. Beautiful. Look at that there. Beautiful, thick sauce. Beautiful fragrance coming off it there. You got the potatoes and carrots through it. So serving up, we want to get a little bit of everything. A bit of tomato, a bit of potato, a bit of carrot. Plenty of that lovely beef, which is just ready to fall apart. Look at that there. There we go. That's your curry. And we add a little bit of poppadom on the side. And there we go. There's your beef vindaloo curry, served with rice and poppadoms. That's it for today. Enjoy your meal. Check out my other 2 videos if you haven't seen them already. And we'll be doing another one in a couple of days. And we'll call the next one, I think we'll do a spaghetti bolognese, which is again one of my specialities. So thank you for watching. Enjoy the videos and take care and stay at home.